for today is just to tell you about the America First events that we are having at the Carson City Nugget. If you are a whistleblower, somebody who has information that you would like to share to the public, I welcome you to contact me so that you can be a guest on my radio show. And a little bit about Mel Kay, the speaker that's coming on this Saturday. Mel Kay is a dynamic conservative figure and public speaker who specializes in connecting complex dots and weaving compelling narratives as a successful screenwriter, investigative journalist, and podcaster with a dual background in journalism and film from NYU. She has gained industry recognition by seemingly merging both disciplines to create engaging and highly informative content. And so hopefully you will feel compelled to come and support us and our movement. And it starts at 6 p.m. We also have a dinner. I think it might conflict with your guys' event, but we are having a dinner. Carson Nugget always does a comedy show once a month, and we're kind of formatting this new event after the comedy show that we have. So every night before we have our event, we have an exclusive dinner with the guest. So you can, it's like an $80 purchase to have dinner and intimately have a one-on-one with the guest. But the Saturday event is free. So that's it.
Where are you going to put the
tickets?
Yeah, you want to put them up on the table?
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
So maybe you don't go to this Friday dinner, but in future months we can support, because as you all know, we're having a party on Friday, okay? And this is for the Washoe Freedom Coalition, and we're going to be, it's a fundraiser. So the money that we get from that fundraiser is going to support our down ballot candidates. So the people who are running for city council and the commission and school board and mayor, and also, I'm sorry, the county district attorney is also in that bunch. So we're going to be supporting these people throughout their primary candidacy and into the actual general, because we're pretty sure we'll get them all into the general. Yeah. Oh, so what they get at this party is karaoke and a live band called Whitewater. And you get also food, and you get a free first drink ticket. Yeah, I said karaoke. Okay, put your hearing aid in, Ray. So we hope you'll come. You can pay at the door. It's $55 if you bring a friend. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you there. And it's at the Club Underground. And we have flyers everywhere. So if you have any questions, Candy's got some, and Debbie's got some, and Nicholas has some, etc. I've also been handed a program. There's going to be a PAA meeting on Monday, January 12th. And so we'll keep this up here too for you. It's the whole outline of what Candy and Jennifer are going to be our new PAA people. I'm stepping aside from this job. You don't clap yet that I'm stepping aside from this job. Bad timing, Diana. So I'm going to be first VP of RWR. Okay, so yeah, but it's in good. The PAA is in good hands with Candy and Jennifer. They have so many plans for you, and it's a committee that's really growing in size. So at this point, I'm going to introduce Robert, but he's going to come up and do the invocation, and Alicia's going to do the flag salute, and then we'll start our program. Where is he? Oh, he's in the back. He's going to do the grand walk. Here comes Robert Morss up to the front. Woo! And I've had a chance to get to know this guy, and he's the kind of guy that you want to hug. Look at, I'll hug him again. It's hard to believe that he has that patriotic spirit after spending 4 years in jail. But he does. He is a true patriot, and he's going to tell you his story. So please enjoy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Hey, thank you guys. Well, let's applaud God first. How about we do that? Let's stand for him and pray to him. How's that sound? Let's do that. I wouldn't have made it out of there without him. So let's do that first and foremost. Almighty God, thank you so much for bringing so many incredible patriots under one roof, people that love you and trust you, but people that are also wondering how could their country go so far off the rails in their lifetime. I pray, God, that we can find some answers for that, God, and I pray, God, that we can find some solutions, but I also pray, God, that we don't lean on our own understanding, we lean on yours, and we train ourselves to make our bodies our slaves, and so that we will not be disqualified for the prize. So these are times that test men's souls, but it is actually a glory for your kingdom and the American constitutional republic to suffer well in times like this. And I pray, God, that tonight would be a night where we learn our purpose, we understand why we were here to witness such devastation, and that we can find the same purpose that Nehemiah had when he was rebuilding the wall, with one hand on his tool and the other on the spear, ready to defend his people and his country and his God's dignity. So I pray, Lord, that you would watch over us, heal us. Each and every one of us here have physical ailments that we're ignoring or doing our best to hide. I pray, God, for a spirit of healing to be over everyone in this room. I pray, God, that there would be an abundance and prosperity that follows each and every one of these fine young ladies and fine young gentlemen out of this room, God. And I pray, Lord, that we would remember that if we so choose, our country's days will be renewed and the best is yet to come. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right.
Just turn it around. Okay. You let him. Okay.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before Robert continues, I want you to meet his mom. Angela, will you stand up?
You stole one of my lines. Can you guys hear me okay if I stand here and talk like this? Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. I want to offer up another round of applause for our hosts. Thank you, ladies, for putting this on. Appreciate you guys. Let's thank our people. You guys did not have to do this, so thank you for that. Okay, so if I say something, repeat it and or just sing along if you recognize it, okay? Because it's been a long time since I got to hear this. You guys ready? Home means Nevada, home means the hills, home means the sage and the pine. Yes, man! Dude, it's good to be back home. Yes, okay. It is good to be back home. Yeah, so as you guys might have heard, I was on the news recently, and a lot of the country thinks I'm a domestic terrorist. And they took me from my home, and they sent me all across the eastern seaboard to pay for that domestic insurrection. So it's good to be back where I was born and raised. And after this talk, you guys will know how much this place means to me, especially after how much I thought about it while I was in the middle of hell. So thank you very much again for being here. Sadly, Grandpa Bob could not be here, but this was actually the second opportunity that I would have had to be in front of you guys. Sadly, I couldn't make it the first time because, you know, we've got an amazing person in our family who essentially taught us how to be conservative, hardworking, live off the land and whatnot. And so Grandpa Bob is the man that I'm named after, and he's not going to be around much longer. So if you guys could go home and pray for him, his health, and for our family, it'd be great. His name is Robert L. McKinnon, and we love him dearly. So it'd mean a lot to us if you could do that, guys. But yeah, so a lot was taken from me. You guys are aware that I was a Ranger. You guys were aware that I went to Penn State, and you guys were aware that I wanted to use my GI Bill to be a high school history teacher, so that the next generation could keep this republic. That and so much more was taken from me as a result. I will say that I can now identify with individuals from the Bible like Job, Joseph, and Jonah intimately because of what was taken from me. It wasn't just a career. It wasn't just income or assets. It was my family. You know, it was the people that I thought I could trust. And one of the big reasons why coming back to Nevada is rejuvenating for me is because there's a lot of people that still call this place home that would not call me their son or their grandson or their friend any longer. So as a matter of fact, you guys are filling that void that was left after people believed strangers on Black Mirror as opposed to who they raised or who they befriended for decades. So I have you to thank. But for those of you that don't know, I want to introduce the LeggoMan story to you. My moniker is LeggoMan. Okay, so some folks, this is a good story. I want to start this whole thing off right. And you guys are going to not even believe what I'm about to say. So on June 11th, I was arrested for my role at January 6th, which was menial at best. But when the FBI came to my apartment and, you know, they're passing by very dangerous objects like the United States Constitution or the Holy Bible, they also go into a location of my apartment where there was, you know, some Legos lying around. Now, I will admit, I love Legos. I think it awakens the engineer in all of us. But I also really like the idea of bringing Legos into the classroom so that the students who were kind of struggling with ADHD issues had something to kind of tinker with while they're listening to me talk and give somewhat of a lecture, you know? So yes, there were Legos in my possession. But the FBI behaves as if they encountered the holy grail of January 6th when they stumble on none other than a Lego model kit of the United States Capitol. So it was like the worst Seinfeld episode you had ever heard of in your entire life, where they believe that correlation equals causation, and the FBI now thinks that, wow, this guy's in possession of a Lego model kit of the United States Capitol. He must be responsible for January 6th. And they weren't kidding. They put this in my court documents. They called me the architect of the insurrection. And they actually tried to say that because of this unopened box of Legos was in my possession, this is somehow evidence that I'm responsible for all of this. The one time my judge in any of these legal escapades said anything on my behalf that actually worked was when the FBI brought this evidence into the court in my initial arrest. The judge actually asks, how is any of this possible if the Legos are still in the box? It was an unopened box of Legos. And so either I'm a Jedi bastard and I can build Legos without opening the box inside and then plan an insurrection with that, but also make sure that nobody has any guns to go overthrow the United States government with a plastic children's toy, or the government is lying. Take your pick. So that's how I got the name LeggoMan. It will come up in relevance here later on in the talk. But yes, so now you guys know why I'm called the LeggoMan. And as silly as it is, I don't let the moniker go because it's actually an example of how far this government will go to push a narrative, to push a false lie. You know, you have the phrase that I'll show you the man and I'll show you the crime from Stalin's secret police. Now you have the phrase, I'll show you a plastic children's toy and I'll show you an insurrectionist. So it's kind of ridiculous what our government has really got to. So after my arrest, it wasn't long until I was in the DC Gulag. And how many of you are familiar with what that is? The DC Gulag. Okay. That is what we call the DC jail from here on out. Okay. Because of how horrendous that location was, how sadistic the torment was, how poisonous the food, how vicious the guards were. From here on out, we consider the DC jail the DC Gulag. And while I'm there in my cell of solitary confinement, it felt as though that I was living a Twilight Zone episode. Because in jail of my nation's capital, I look outside the window of my very tiny cell, and from my window, I see a TV on the corner of the wall, and this TV is not only featuring the imposter president who totally lost the 2020 election, call me a domestic terrorist and an insurrectionist after I had fought and hunted down Taliban in Afghanistan 3 times in a row. But in addition to that, I'm also watching the Afghan pullout on live television. So everything I fought for was actually going up in smoke right before my eyes while in jail in my nation's capital. So it's just this crazy twist of events that only God could author. And that's a tough pill to swallow because of how wild of a scenario that really was to live out. But it's necessary to point out that, God will allow men to go through very hard times so that they can be prepared to make good times as a result. And that's what I intend to do from it all. But I will tell you this, the entire time that I was locked up, and I love that I'm having this opportunity to say this now, was thoughts of Lake Tahoe. I literally thought of Lake Tahoe every single night before I fell asleep in order to relax my mind, to be still, to pray. I would think of those waters. I would think of how beautiful that location is every single night in order to calm myself down. Every rumor you've ever heard about jail is true. It is as savage as you've imagined. And so in order for me to remain calm, I did what I could to think about my home, think about the sunsets, think about the Sierra Nevadas, think about Washoe, Pyramid, but especially Tahoe. So what you guys call home is actually something that not too long ago, I was actually thinking of to remain sane. So I want you guys, the next time you go up to those waters, remember that I did my absolute best to go there in my mind in order to be free, even though that my body was still locked up. So you guys have a very beautiful possession in your backyard. Don't take it lightly. So a lot of people also ask what my charges were, and that's a very interesting thing to discuss. Obviously, I didn't try to overthrow the government with a plastic children's toy. But when I did go to trial, I was found guilty of 3 charges. And I know that this is an important topic for our constituents because we want to be the law and order people. Normally, we're Republicans. We want to back the police. And it's a strange thing to kind of wrap your mind around. And I appreciate you guys being willing to hear me out here because we had spent all of 2020 backing the police through the whole BLM riots, and then the second 2021 comes around, now our people are fighting cops. How does that make sense? And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But it's important for you guys to know what my charges were so you understand who you're talking to. I was found guilty of 3 charges. The first charge was a simple assault charge, 111A, on my 9-man indictment, 8 people of which I'd never met before in my entire life, which is illegal. I was the only one that didn't have a 111B, which is an assault with a deadly or dangerous weapon. Now, these deadly or dangerous weapons were up to and including canes or flagpoles or rolled up pieces of newspaper. They got very creative with what they considered a deadly or dangerous weapon. So can you guys hear me? Okay. I was found guilty of a simple assault though, which is just as easy as if someone flicked you in the elbow and someone wanted to press charges, that's enough to convict you of a simple assault. The second charge I was found guilty of was robbery. And this one's a little tricky because the way that charge was written, that charge could have only taken place if I was on maritime waters or in some kind of territory of the United States. So unless I'm in the Virgin Islands or setting sail somewhere in Costa Rica, that charge doesn't even match the crime. And the prosecution was only found out 3 days prior to my sentencing. But they smiled and they laughed, and even though the jig was up, they ran with it anyways. The entire legal system that we admire here in America completely failed me from top to bottom. I didn't have a lawyer that was willing to fight for me. The prosecutions were willing to make up libel, and we'll get to that as well. And the judge was willing to nod on with it all. And this is the worst part of it, is that I was convicted of the 1512 charge, which is the obstruction of an official proceeding charge, okay? The reason why this is extremely relevant is because the 1512 charge, I don't know if you guys recall this, was actually thrown out by the Supreme Court last summer for being unconstitutionally applied. Now, this wasn't some grandiose surprise that they like, oh man, yeah, I guess you guys are right. We did make a mistake. Every single federal judge that found a January 6er guilty of violating the 1512, law knew that they were condemning someone to a charge that wasn't violated. So how could you convict someone of a crime that they didn't commit? So as a matter of fact, every single federal judge, if the Trump administration has some guts, might be actually looking to go into the DC gulag where they actually belong. So that's what I hope happens as a result. But the reason why this charge was important was because simple assault and robbery don't carry nearly enough time if you're going to call someone a terrorist on live television. How are you going to call someone a terrorist and equate them to Osama bin Laden and then make them do 6 months of community service, right? It kind of defeats the moniker of terrorist. So they needed to find a charge that they cooked up from the Enron case that Sidney Powell was actually a part of, who got thrown into the whole Georgia indictment. The 1512 charge carries up to 20 years, but it's actually focused on evidence tampering. I didn't tamper any evidence, but somehow the prosecution gets away with saying that I did by setting foot on a building that we own. Okay, so the whole thing was botched from the get-go. And yet I was told that, don't worry, Mr. Morss, after 66 months, you'll still be a young man when you get out of prison by my judge, right? So a lot of these things to make your blood boil. It's absolutely sick. And I don't know how these people are still in office. And I'm hoping that things do change. But I also have something to hopefully give you guys a little bit of solace when it comes to that. What sense would it make to throw someone like Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama in front of a judge that they'd recognize from Epstein Island? Our entire judicial system is broken. So before you try to indict people and hold people accountable, you actually have to overhaul the entire judicial system, because every prosecutor is going to let them go and every judge is going to acquit them with prejudice. So now you can't come back and re-indict these people on the same crimes. So I think that's why, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of idea of why it's taking so long for these people to finally go to jail and or face the death penalty like they deserve for what they've done to my country and my home after what I fought for and what you guys have trusted them to protect for so long. Things definitely got to change in this country. But the amount of people that actually overthrew the government had nothing to do with who gathered on January 6th. And everybody that colluded in the dark, and we'll get to that prior to that. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you guys, what my charges were, so you guys had a better understanding of who you're in the room with and what the government said that I was guilty of, because I know that's important. So the prosecutors definitely got away with writing the script for the media. I will say that as well, that every single headline that you saw, whether it was here in Nevada or in Pittsburgh, where I was teaching high school history, the prosecutors got away with that libel. And what was it, like the Munson Act, or what act was it that Obama totally got rid of, where now the government can totally line itself with the media and pump out? It was a Munchel, is that what it was? Something like that. Smith-Mundt, thank you, okay? Take your time to research what the Smith-Mundt Act is. It essentially was a law that prevented the mainstream media from promoting whatever kind of stories that the government wanted to cook up. Obama made sure that that was done away with while he was in office. So this is exactly what the media was able to get away with legally to ruin the credibility of me and all the other January 6ers that went to jail over nothing. So we've got a lot of research to do, a lot of homework to do. But the prosecutors were definitely allowed to write the script. And this is where things kind of get crazy. I know you guys want to hear the story. You guys want to know what it was like on January 6th. It was an absolute medieval battle. I'm not even kidding you. I mean, it was so cold that day and people were so upset that, I mean, think about it. We watched our elections get stolen. We watched the pandemic. We watched everybody be forced to take a vaccine that is actually killing more people now than the virus ever could or did. The virus was cooked up, and we know that Wuhan lab had everything to do with that, and the Chinese have not been held accountable at all for unleashing a plague upon the world like they did. And so there's a lot of things that were leading up to the reason why we did what we did that day. But the interesting thing that I witnessed that really got me sucked into the tumult of that day was the largest pro-Trump Asian support I'd ever seen in my entire life, okay? We're talking thousands strong of Pan-Pacific Asian Americans who had actually fled communism from their country to find refuge here in America. So if anybody knows what a stolen election looks like or feels like, or knows what communism looks like and sounds like, it's them. And I watched them get targeted by the Capitol Police, so much so that the Capitol Police, who were deliberately shooting flashbangs in the crowd to provoke them, arced their grenade launchers at a certain degree so that the grenade could be shot from the grenade launcher and then detonate right where they were trying to protect their women and children within the circle of these pro-Trump Asian support groups. So when I'm watching flashbangs blow up by the faces of kids, what do you expect me to do, dude? I'm a Ranger and I'm a man and I love my country. Like every other man in this community would have done. They would have stepped up and protect the young. And as a matter of fact, that's what our government seems to be paying entities like Planned Parenthood to try to rip out of wombs. So it's a very sick combo. But that was a battle, dude. There was ladders, there was ropes, there was people playing bagpipes in the middle of this thing. I mean, imagine the biggest bar fight you'd ever seen in your entire life happening in broad daylight. And now you've got people literally dressed up like they're at Bunker Hill playing like little drummer boy stuff, like it's the Revolutionary War. I'm telling you, this was nuts. So you got all this emotional stimuli going on. You also have people on megaphones speaking to the crowd. This is it, patriots. It's do or die. If you don't do something now, you're going to lose your country forever. Now combine that with the fact that nobody's cell phones are working because everybody's in the same place. And if anyone's ever been to a concert before, you know that your cell phones don't work because there's too much signal and frequency. So now there's paid provocateurs snaking their way through the crowd saying every capital is getting taken over. The CNN building just got stormed. We're doing this. We're taking over the country, guys. I was in jail with a guy who was a proud communist. He said this to the FBI, and he admitted that he showed up that day to get Trump supporters shot and killed while wearing a MAGA hat, who passed out PCP-laced cigarettes to unassuming protesters in the crowd. Yeah, so there's like a lot of emotional stimuli going on, okay? Now add this. How many veterans do I got in the room here? Raise your hand. First of all, thank you for your service. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Now check this out. There's a lot of veterans that had to go through or endure what's known as the gas chamber or persevere through CS gas through their training. This is the same gas that the police was firing on the crowd so that every single veteran on a chemical level was now hijacked into a fight or flight reaction. So the very same chemical irritants that you had to persevere through in your training to get into the military is now being used against you. So in every single metric you can quantify, it was all used against you. So that's why it's confusing for people to look at, Trump supporters that back the blue now getting in a fight with the police on Capitol grounds, and it requires a conversation to try to understand where these Capitol police officers, if you do a little bit of homework, and I know that my mom did for the last 4 years, so she knows everything that I'm talking about, there's video footage of police officers that were left out of the plan that admit this is a setup. They're on camera saying this is a setup. This is undeniable. This is a setup. And as a matter of fact, every single one of those police officers that the Democrats claim all died on January 6th, they say that 5 died, none of them died, by the way, were Trump supporters. And they didn't die on January 6th. The last one that they claimed died because of January 6th died in July of 2021. And we all know what the Clintons like to do in the dead of night. There's a lot of body bags surrounding that family. So what do you think actually happened to those Capitol police officers? But I will tell you this, 4 patriots were killed that day. The names were Benjamin Phillips, Kevin Greasom, Roseanne Boylan, and Ashley Babbitt. They were all slaughtered right in front of us. So add that to the mix, and you tell me if you can sit idly by while your elections are being stolen, while everything's going to hell right in front of you. We did nothing wrong on January 6th, as far as I'm concerned. Not a damn thing. But that's what that was like. Something else that I go into in a book that is going to be sold after this, and if we run out, we can, make sure that you're sent a copy after the fact. is confirmed that January 6th was a lobster trap in a myriad of different ways. But one thing is very important for you to understand is that the day of January 6th, not the 5th nor the 7th, but the day of January 6th was supposed to be a vote where our bicameral legislature comes together to certify the Electoral College results, okay? The rally just so happened to coincide with this date on purpose because it doesn't take Scooby-Doo to figure this one out. Ted Cruz and congressmen from Arizona said that they will 100% veto any kind of vote and send the electors back to their states so that this election would not be confirmed. Having said that, this is the game plan. Okay, if the jig is up and these electors get sent back to the states where they're from, they're going to find out once the vote is audited that 100% this thing was stolen, that thousands of dead people voted, thousands of people that don't exist voted, thousands of addresses that don't exist voted. And I know Tony Shoup from the company that's trying to, bring up all the stuff from history. You got to meet her in Pennsylvania. We'll audit the vote PA. They have the receipts. People that don't even exist, never were born in America or that are 300 years old, voted for Joe Biden in 2020. So it's out there. Don't ever let anybody say that the election in 2020 wasn't stolen because they just haven't done enough research or they've deliberately put their heads in the sand. I digress. The game plan was to use all that rage that had been cooked up since the 2020 riots as a battering ram with a MAGA hat on against Trump and his own agenda so that the vote would be halted and it would be our fault that the Electoral College results were not certified. So this is what happens. Once Ted Cruz and the congressman from Arizona confirmed, yeah, we're not certifying this garbage, as if on cue, Nancy Pelosi hands off her gavel. Because remember, she was the Speaker of the House at this time. She hands off her gavel, leaves the room. At that exact same moment, you can correlate this with the CCTV footage, a red smoke grenade detonates above the dome of the Capitol. At that exact same moment, as if a signal was let out, that's when MPD shows up in riot gear, descending into the crowd, as if they had been warned violence is about to kick off. And if you watch the footage of January 6th, you'll notice almost like the tide on the ocean. There's a little bit of violence, and then the Patriots calm it down. There's a little bit of violence on the front line, and then the Patriots calm it down. Over and over and over again, okay? Like waves coming up against the shoreline. Patriots keep trying to calm it down. But what we have learned is that about the entire crowd that you see on January 6th, only about 1/3 of them is actually a hardcore patriot. 2/3 of that entire crowd is either a paid informant, an FBI agent, or someone who flew in from out of state that belongs to Antifa or Black Lives Matter. So the patriots that were there were caught in between a rock and a hard place, and their plan worked perfectly. They used how upset we were against Trump, against his movement, and it's only a miracle that the MAGA movement survived after something like that. So, thank you. So it's just something to consider that because of people like my mother who stayed on it and never gave up and wanted to be loyal to her son and wanted to show that we're not going to accept defeat, that we were able to bounce back, but also to reveal that January 6th was none other than a lobster trap. And there's a lot more where that came from in that book, One Question Remains, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a second, but it's definitely for sale at the end of this talk. But that's the problem with January 6th isn't that we might have been sucked into a lobster trap. The problem that I have is that I think it probably should have happened a long time ago. People should have been reminding our government a long time ago who they actually work for. And because we have been cajoled into a hamster wheel of entertainment, our entertainment has now become our enslavement. And we can get into that a little bit more after this talk. But Thomas Jefferson actually advocates for rebellion once every 5 years so that the government never forgets who this government actually is beholden to. If you read the preamble of our Constitution, the responsibility to uphold all the laws and to make sure that the government's actually following the law is the people. It's always been our responsibility. And somewhere along the lines, we were convinced that we could trust the government. Look how that turned out. So I'm here today to challenge you to fix history beside me. I was having this conversation with my family last night that I have lived through an event where if the wrong person got elected, I would have gone down in history as a Nazi, and President Trump would have gone down in history as Adolf Hitler. Because we have a fighting chance now and that God put his finger on the scales to make sure that Trump did win, though I think a lot of other Republicans should have ran and won, and I think that they did, though their elections were stolen. We have a brief window of opportunity to do everything that we can within our power to make sure that we never have to go through this stuff again. Thank you. So I will say that the stories that you hear about jail are true. They're absolutely savage, okay? But I'm also here to tell you that not everything that happened in jail was as horrific as you can imagine. I'm kind of a glass half full kind of guy, and I want to tell you a couple good stories that happened behind bars too, so you also know that not all hope is lost, okay? You guys cool with that? I don't want you guys to be depressed when you walk out of here, you know what I mean? Life is depressing enough, man. I don't want you to be like, damn, that sucks, man. No, I want you guys to actually feel upbeat and confident, excited about, the future. And this is a really good story. So speaking of being depressed, there's a lot of people that were ready to give up in the early months of our incarceration in 2021. In the DC Gulag, I would say August, July timeframe, we were public enemy number one. Nobody had looked into the footage. A lot of people were like, yep, those are terrorists. That's it. Case closed, end of story. So we kind of felt like, wow, we're never going to get out of here. We're going to die here, and the country hates us, and we're actually screwed. Ironically, the first person to call us political prisoners was Vladimir Putin. How crazy is that? We're like, wow, dude. If anyone's going to come to your rescue, man, I did not have that on my bingo card. Vladimir Putin, okay? That's crazy. But because so many people were really struggling, I'm reading the room and I'm like, dude, we are probably days away from people actually taking their lives. And I know that once one person does it, a lot of other people are going to do it too. So I knew that I needed to act fast. So a buddy of mine and I, Jeff Sable, got together and we're like, man, what do we do to fix this? I cooked up the idea that maybe, just maybe, we could actually start comedy and talent shows while we're locked up, like our Vietnam veteran ancestors, who, while they were POWs, would make fun of their captors and use levity to persevere through their incarceration. We were going to do the same. Because make no mistake, we were prisoners of political warfare, without a doubt. And so what I did was produce my first show, which is actually kind of funny because a lot of folks from my production company are here right now that I've started. We'll get to that in a minute. I put together a comedy and talent show of 10 acts in the middle of hell to make sure that my brothers would be able to persevere through what we were going through. I named this show The Hopium Den, okay? I know it's a little, play on words there, but I invited people to come to The Hopium Den. And, from my time in the military, you already know that you can't ask your subordinates to do something unless you're willing to do it yourself. So I convinced these people who I didn't know from Adam to act like a clown in front of 80 other strangers. Hey, don't worry, I'm going to do it first because Rangers lead the way. So I actually sang in front of a bunch of men that I never knew before my entire life the song I'll Make a Man Out of You from the Mulan cartoon with costume and crowd participation to start the show. Not even joking. Yeah, so it was a gamble. And my dignity was on the line, but if it was going to keep people from hurting themselves, that was a risk worth taking. And it worked. The positivity was so tangible in that room that it was almost like you were walking through a cloud of happiness, like a vapor of positivity. These men had laughed for the first time in months, and they felt as though that maybe, just maybe, they're going to get through this. I learned that night that God is in the laughter and that the hopium dens were a source of positivity, but also a reminder of who we were prior to this and who we can still be once we survive. So that's the hopium den story. And as a matter of fact, you guys are going to hear a lot more about that in the second book that's about to be submitted to Amazon. We'll get to that in a second. I know I'm kind of like teasing you guys for this whole talk. But yeah, so One Question Remains is a book that a buddy of mine that's actually going to be the best man at my wedding in April, we wrote while we were incarcerated together in Philadelphia. We actually had that book smuggled out of prison. Not many books you guys are reading can say that they were smuggled out of prison for you to read. So if you guys want a book that was smuggled out of an American prison, it's over there. But the point of that book was kind of like our Hail Mary message in a bottle, so that somebody could give enough of a damn to make sure that we didn't die in prison. That book right there was our attempt to make sure that enough people would wake up to the fact that not only was January 6th a lobster trap, but that we believe that lobster trap was being designed all the way back in 2016. So there's a breadcrumb trail that we did everything within our power to, by memory, by the way, assemble for you in that book so that we had the facts on our side. I want you guys to know that you are on the right side of history. Regardless of how loud these goblins of anarchy are out there, either in the streets or on social media, the fact that you are willing to say that Christ is king and that we are a constitutional republic, we're not a democracy, we're not an oligarchy, nothing that, we're a constitutional republic. This is how heaven remembers you well, and the next generation will miss you when you're gone. Okay, so be proud of that fact. So yes, there is a second book that I've been writing for, I would say, the last 6 months, because every time I think I'm ready to say, all right, I can publish this now, I remember something that happened. It is 41 short stories of my time behind bars. So you're going to be able to find it on Amazon. The book is going to be called Still There. And I'll tease you again because that'll come up very soon. But essentially, that book has taken a lot of personal anguish for me to regurgitate those stories for you, because I had to go back in time to where I knew for a fact that the devil was trying to claim my future with his bare hands. I had to go back into very horrific locations mentally and make peace with it, to face it, to go on the offensive and to overthrow my past so that it wouldn't overthrow me. So that book is about January 6th. The book that's about to drop is about how I persevered through hell as my time that I can relate to Job, Jonah, and Joseph, if that makes sense. So the best thing I can tell you guys is stay tuned. It's probably going to be available around December 16th-ish is the day that I think. And, we've got some folks in here that you can stay in touch with so that it can be available. But that second book is in the works, and it's almost there. We're almost there. But that leads me to a really good point, because if I'm able, through God's grace, to go on the offensive and reclaim my past, so can you guys. I can't be the only one that wants to save my country. And as a matter of fact, if I am the only one who wants to save my country, I will fail. But if enough people in this room actually made up their minds that that is going to be their dying wish, to do everything within their power to make sure that the kids that they care about are going to have a home that they love and value, we will save this country. We are going to make sure that freedom doesn't die on our watch, or that we were the last people in America to understand what freedom means, as Ronald Reagan warns. So I'm challenging you to go on the offensive with me. If you do, obviously the idea would be that you educate, you take time out of your day to invest into youth groups. You don't have to go to war. There's a really good line, and it's actually a superhero movie, which I know my COO will make fun of me for referencing in this little talk. But there is a interesting line where one of the main villains is challenging a subordinate of his to prove their loyalty. And she tells him, "I would die for you." His response was, "Well, that's too easy. Would you live for me?" That's the exact same ask that not only Christ challenges his disciples, but that our Constitution is asking of you. Would you live for me? That's what every single tombstone at Arlington is asking you, the question of with their name. Would you live so that what I did isn't for naught? How many of our ancestors whose graves are probably unmarked now because the lack of people who actually cared have withered away with time will have their sacrifice go up in smoke because good men continue to do nothing? It's something to consider. And on that kind of encouraging but kind of morbid note, I want to talk about the production company, because each and every one of us has a way that we were designed by God to go on the offensive. Each and every one of us has a spiritual gift. I know that my spiritual gift is teaching. That's been confirmed throughout all the things that I've endured and everything that I've gone through. My spiritual gift is that. Each and every one of you have that gift as well. So in order to capitalize on my desire to teach and to make sure that the next generation can keep this republic and that Afghanistan doesn't follow me home, which I'm kind of watching have happen now on live television, I have started a production company. It's called LeggoMan Productions. Oh yeah. And we are totally going to use what the enemy wanted to destroy me with to actually empower young men to want to fight and save this country once and for all. The idea with LeggoMan Productions is that we make faith-based films worth fighting for, where we reclaim our culture and restore heroes. And the motivation for me wanting to make a production company was based off of my time in prison. While I was incarcerated, God blessed me with a story that I put in script form. Granted, it wasn't the best script that was ever written because I'm not a screenwriter. However, it's a story about a guy who really did live over 2,000 years ago, whose name has been deliberately hidden from you so that nobody would ever stand up to tyranny like he did back when his republic was about to die. Now, I can't say his name just yet, but what I can tell you is that we are caught within two time loops. A 250-year-old one where our founding fathers were having the exact same conversations that we're having at every single dinner table at night. But we're also in a 2,000-year-old time loop where men who had fought hard to make a republic out of chaos were watching everything that their ancestors labored for go up in smoke right before their eyes. And that is what our first breakout movie is going to be about. Obviously, we know how the movie ends. Rome's republic becomes an empire. However, there were men whose names were erased from history who did everything that they could to make sure that that reality didn't happen, and you deserve to know those names so that you can act accordingly. So LeggoMan Productions is going to be working with Christians. We're only taking money from Christians. We're going to offer an opportunity to Christians so that they don't have to sacrifice their inheritance in heaven for a bowl of soup with 15 seconds of fame. The idea is that every single actor, writer, camera hand, whatever it is, that is a Christian that denied opportunities to be famous in Hollywood, like my COO, Stephen Van Dorn. Say hi. He is, give him a round of applause. Oh yeah, does he look sharp too? Yeah. The idea is that finally we're going to provide an alternative so that Christians can save their country by telling stories as if King David directed them, so that not only a republic can be kept, but that God can be proud of what we do. So we're going on the offensive. Everything that the enemy has done to me, we're throwing right back into his face. And at August 23rd, when I unveiled this company, I gave a little bit of a speech where I say that LeggoMan Productions essentially confers our contest with Hollywood like the outnumbered Elijah facing down 400 prophets of the false god Baal, or like David facing down Goliath. But because Hollywood and the sadistic people who have ruined our culture, which politics is downstream of, have done everything that they can to separate me from my God, mock my God, and ruin the fate of my country, at LeggoMan Productions, we are literally going to chop off the giant's head with its own sword like David of old. That is what we're going to do. Without a doubt. They made an enormous mistake by locking me up. Because they did. They really, really did. They should have just left me alone. They should have left me alone because I would have been fine teaching high school history in my humble classroom somewhere in Pittsburgh. But now I'm going to do something that puts me and Christ back in every single classroom all across our country, if not the West. We are going to stop the death of the West here at LeggoMan Productions. That is the goal. Thank you, guys. So I also want to say something very unique, too, which is going to kind of be wild. And this is something that I hinted at earlier. We believe in a God that renames men. Abram was renamed Abraham after he passed the test of faith, where he was actually willing to sacrifice Isaac after he had been promised an inheritance that would outnumber the stars. Jacob, the one that bides the heel, was renamed Israel after he had wrestled with an angel of the Lord all night long. And Saul was renamed Paul after he had his conversion on the road to Damascus, struck blind. After he had hunted Christians, he would now be the next apostle, taking Judas's place. The whole LeggoMan thing is kind of wild. And a buddy of mine who is a part of the company confronted me one day and he said, "Hey man, do you know what LeggoMan means in Latin?" I said, "I have no idea what it means." And we're making a movie about Romans who speak Latin, which is even crazier. He said, I have no idea what that means. He goes, LeggoMan in Latin means I anoint men or I assemble men. So I have been renamed a name that means I anoint men and I assemble men. So what better name for a production company? And it is not by me whatsoever. That is through the Holy Ghost. I cannot take any credit for that whatsoever, because the way that this story is playing out only makes sense unless God is intimately involved, undeniably involved. I wouldn't have survived had it not been for him. These doors that are opening for me now wouldn't have happened without him. And so I want you guys to consider that if you're going through something that is taking you down to your fingernails, where that's how much you've got left to hang on to your sanity, that's actually designed to rename you. It is something that God is going to use to make sure that this republic does last another 250 years. I've already reminded you that you're on the right side of history, but I also want to challenge you to defend your home, because it's the only place we've got. Everybody else flees here to escape communism. If there's no here and there's nowhere else to go, then there is actually no hope left for the world. Our founding fathers actually stated that fervently within their writings, which you'll find a large amount of, and one question remains, that if the American people fail to maintain this republic, it is not just the detriment of America, it is actually to the forsaking of the entire planet. Okay? So we don't just have our family's future on the line. Quite literally, planet Earth is going to suffer if we decide to do nothing and continue to sit on our hands. Now, you guys might be saying, well, you know, my fighting days were behind me. I would refuse that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because while I was trapped in a place called Northern Neck Regional Jail, in a godforsaken place called Warsaw, Virginia, there was a group of men and women right around your age range that raised so much hell outside of that jail called the Northern Neck Patriots that the federal government actually had to move all of the January 6ers from that jail and relocate them back into Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. So if you don't think that by you showing up and speaking out isn't enough, it definitely is, because you call the bluff of the federal government. The Northern Neck Patriots showed you that. You want to know why they did that? Is because there's an enormous amount of our founding fathers that were birthed in Northern Neck, Virginia. They felt as though it was their responsibility to stand up to tyranny, especially if it had been found exactly where our founding fathers called home. So I know that Nevada hadn't even been, colonized yet when our founding fathers drafted the Constitution. However, God wanted you to be alive now so that you could endure this pain. Not so you could say, well, I skated by God, when you get to heaven, but so that you can look God in the face and say, I did exactly what you wanted me to do, and I shouldered that burden, I put on the armor of God, and I marched out. What are we going to say when we get up there? Think about it. This is something that I've actually been thinking about a little bit. When we meet the Apostle Paul, when we meet Joshua and Caleb, the guys that came back in from the promised land and said that out of all these scouts that are saying we can't take them, I don't even care if there's giants in there. If we go now, we can win. When we meet these men, what are we going to tell them? That I decided to be a bitch? Or are we going to tell them, I try to make you proud, man. I try to lead my people to the promised land. That is not limited to a January 6er. That is everybody's responsibility. Lead your people back to the promised land, cross the Jordan River, and bring down giants. Get used to slaying giants, because that is why you're alive today. Okay? That's the point. Thank you, guys. There's a really cool story that I encourage you guys to read in Daniel chapter 3, verses 16 through 18, where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are about to be thrown into the fiery furnace. Okay? I know you guys know the story, but it's very important to recite now. They tell Nebuchadnezzar, we have nothing to explain to you, man. First of all, you're a punk. They don't say that, but that was their attitude. Says, we have nothing to explain to you, Nebuchadnezzar. We are not going to bow down to your idol of gold. And we also know that the penalty for that is being thrown into the fiery furnace, of which we know that our God is going to protect us from. He's going to save us. But even if he doesn't save us from this furnace, we will still not bow down to your golden idol. That is called biblical defiance. And if more Americans had that, January 6th never would have happened. But if we have it now, it won't happen again. I got another cute little story for you guys. When I was locked up in the DC gulag, there was a lot of rain coming down when I was supposed to go to court, so I essentially had an entire day robbed from me. And I just pretty much rotted in a holding chamber in the DC gulag, and I was mad. But then when I decided to calm down and be still, I also noticed that there was some graffiti on the door of my holding cell that was preventing me from being with my patriots within the Patriot Pod. And on the door, my mom knows this story, on the door within the gray paint, a message was inscribed. And the message said, keep your head up. You were built for this part. I want to give you guys that message. Keep your head up. You were built for this part. Everything that's gone sideways, you guys actually have an opportunity to fix. It can't just be me and Trump that are trying to save America. There's enough manpower in this room that we could sway an election. We could fix a whole city if we wanted to. But that's just it. Do we want to? And that's what we have to ask ourselves. Do we want freedom as much as we claim? I also want to say something else too, that there is an intimate connection between the Constitution of the United States that holds back tyranny of government and the passion of the Christ that holds back tyranny of sin. They are deeply and intimately connected. America is a Christian nation. And if we want to remain free, we have to bring God back into everything that we do from here on out. Okay? The way that you make America great again is by making America God's America. It's the exact same acronym. Okay? So if we'll humble ourselves before the Lord, that is exactly how God's going to say, you know what? Maybe I'll give him another shot. Okay? That is exactly how we save this place, is by making sure that God is involved with everything. Read your founding documents. Read your Bible. Do you know that the 10 Commandments actually inspired our Bill of Rights? Do you know that our founding fathers, out of 54 of them, 53 were active members in their local church? You can't tell me that there is a separation of church and state, because each and every one of them wanted this place to be a Christian nation. And whether they were Christians themselves or not, they had to undeniably admit that the Christian way of life and the God of the Hebrews is the only path to heaven, on earth as it is in heaven. So I want to challenge you guys this, to be the antibody of tyranny. Just like you can inject antibodies for a virus into your own flesh, you too can be the antibody of tyranny in your community, in your state, and in your country. We call the Wild West home. Don't be afraid to remind our enemies why they still call Nevada the Wild West. All right? Straight up. Don't be afraid to remind our enemies why this place is wild. We've got ancestors, man, that lived by the gun, that made sure that their word was their life. Okay? Make our ancestors proud And we can do that together. I also want to say that I will go back to prison if you guys do nothing. If we lose the midterms, I'm screwed. Trump is screwed. My mom is probably going to go to prison, actually, because in order to hurt me, they're going to lock her up and let me be free so that I know what it feels like to be on the outside. So if you value my mother's life, if you value mine, and if you value the life of your children, this is for all the marbles. Make sure that we don't lose the midterms. And if we do lose the midterms, make sure that you call out the BS so that the voter fraud is exposed. But if we lose in 2028, it was nice knowing you guys. Because I won't be just in prison by myself this time. I'll be locked up side by side with you guys. So this is for all the marbles. Trump gave us a reprieve that we needed to really figure our stuff out. Back in 2016, Make America Great Again was a slogan. Now it's a way of life. And if we take it seriously, our kids are going to be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor, as opposed to asking us, why didn't you do anything when you could? I don't want to hear my son say that to me, and he's not even born yet. But I know that I'm going to have that conversation with him one day, because if this republic is to die, and he says, Dad, what did you do to try to save this place? I'm going to be able to tell him a really good story. Can you? So last but not least, I want to give honor to God. I want to challenge you guys not to let my torment go to waste. And I have one final story to tell you guys. When I was locked up, I was introduced to the tradition of singing the national anthem every night at 9 p.m. And some of you guys probably sang this with us, though it was 6 p.m. for you guys. It was 9 p.m. for us on the East Coast. But about a week in of this tradition being introduced to me, I started to piss off a lot of my patriot brothers because I started to scream like I was suffering from Tourette's in the middle of the national anthem. And at first, these guys were like, this is ridiculous, dude. You're a Ranger, you're a patriot. Why are you disrespecting our national anthem like this? Why would you be screaming? And I explained to them that even though I had endured everything, like watching everything that I had fought for go up in smoke, like I had told you guys about in the beginning of this talk, after everything that had been taken from me, after all the ways that I'd been betrayed, my faith in my God and my love of my country is still there. So every night at 9, when we sang the national anthem, I would scream those 2 words because that was my act of defiance to tyranny. After everything that they were trying to crush me with and by, my faith in my God and my hope that I would see these days renewed for my nation was still there. So I want to invite you guys into this tradition, because this is how I like to close out all my talks, by asking you if you would honor me by singing the national anthem side by side with me. And when the time comes, to scream the words, still there, as your first of many acts of defiance against tyranny. You guys with me for that? Let's do this together. Let's stand and sing the national anthem. You guys ready? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you for coming out. I love you guys. Thank you very much.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Can you believe this guy? Are you all so inspired? Seriously. We all have a job to do now. We need to keep him out of jail. Okay? Yeah. This is the group to do it. We were all protesting that same day up in Carson City. We saw all of the Asians too. They were very upset. So anyway, Ray wants me to mention that we live stream this on Redmove, so you can still go back and see it. That's what Bill was doing in the back. And I have a little present for you. You don't have to open it now, but we really, really appreciate you so much. That was just, you hit it out of the park. So thanks a lot.
Price through me, that's all.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, Debbie wanted to say a few words too. Oh, man. That was so good.
Thank you very much.
What chair?
I know, right?
I know. Oh, my God.
We took up a small donation.
Oh, thank you very much.
We
I appreciate
collected
it. Okay.
just a little over $340.
Oh my gosh.
Can use that for you
Yes, ma'am. I
for
appreciate
your
you.
production.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I wanted to just say a little bit. You guys probably are, some of you are aware that we get attacked quite frequently. And Kate and I have been singled out, and we're being tried on the public market, and that's fine because we're not going to give up, but we're not going to stand by quietly either.
No.
We are going to publicly respond to what has been happening to us with the truth. And the truth is going to be of all the things we have accomplished and the things that we have been working for. And Robert, we thank you so much. It never compares to what you went through. Ours is very minor. It's a bump in the road, but you know, we can't give up.
That's right.
And we are going to keep working and keep standing for the truth and for freedom. And you know, Kate's organization, Washoe Freedom Coalition, is under attack because she's over the target.
Yep.
So
That's right.
thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Housekeeping. We still have sandwiches and chips and cookies. So if you even want to grab a sandwich and take it with you, that would be great. But we definitely want to sell all of these books for Robert. Okay. So thank you again. Huh? Cash or Venmo? Man, you put that's so dandy. That is so dandy.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Air Force, 20 years.
Thank you for your service.
No,
Appreciate
thank you for standing up. Rangers do lead the way.
you. All the way. Thank you, sir.
Can I give you a couple of editorial inputs?
I will, after we sell those books, absolutely.
Sure.
If not, if you have a card, I'll take it too, if you got one on you. Okay.
And I can write some stuff down.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Can you grab the books and kind of set them up? Actually,
We have, oops.
Come all the way down here, Rob.
Nicholas has a request. We had to bring in a lot of chairs because we didn't have enough. And we need some able-bodied men to help bring those chairs down the back way to the trailer and get them loaded. So please see Nicholas if you want to help. We really need your help. Oh, I'm going to the back. Isn't it easier in the back?
Everyone, if you can take one of the folding chairs and go through these doors in the back, down the elevator, and then out the door, you'll see a trailer to the right. That's where we need them. Take them, please. Thank you.
Test, test, test. All right.
We're going to talk about Redmove. So, hey, we just had a Redmove Media just helped out the RWR. And what was it, Ray? Go ahead and. So it's RWR, but it's their PAC organization. Had a
We're
really
not,
fun-
it's not a PAC, it's the Political Action Committee.
So getting to learn to do this, it's kind of fun. We're using equipment here at the Reno Town Mall. We're using the equipment at Reno Town Mall. It's not our normal equipment, so we're going to practice using this. So when you talk, take it on and off.
What do you need?
Now turn it off, Ray. So we're practicing. Now turn it back on. Now you talk. Anytime you talk, turn it on.
I didn't know, quite frankly, who Robert Morris was, that he was a survivor of 3.5 years in prison because of January 6th. He did a fabulous job. Kate Vineyard, that's the current chairman of Political Action Committee, is now turning that over in January to Candy Perrine, you just met.
So Kenny Perrine and Kate has done an excellent job at grading this crew. And I don't know how they do it, but they have the food. They have a lot of people. Excellent job. We'll help them out. We'll try to do some live streaming with Redmove Media. But interesting conversation today. You know, ironically, we were supposed to interview him today, Redmove, you and I, and do a podcast. What happened?
Apparently, Kate forgot to tell him. She did a lot of things, but she just got back from Hawaii, barely made the meeting, and she knew that she was supposed to have a podcast.
So anyway, yeah, we'll forgive her. It happens. You know, this happens in this business. A lot of people don't even know her. And we've got like 400 podcasts, 400 episodes. We're doing a lot of things, so we'll do more and more, but we'll get them again. It was a very good conversation, interesting discussion, what these guys went through. He was a Ranger also, went to Afghanistan.
I didn't know.
He was in Afghanistan in 11, 12, 13, I think, somewhere in there. I was in there at 10, 11. I left in 12. December, 12. I left in December 7th, 2012. I was burnt when I came.
That's when I first met you, and Carolyn Smith and I kind of thought you were a nice guy, but he's kind of spaced out.
Yeah, I'd gone through 30 in a 5-year period, 38 months of combat. That's a lot, and been rocketed many a time. So anyway, going on, what did you think of the discussion today?
I think he did a great job, but there's one thing that was missing. People wanted to ask him questions.
You know, I thought for sure they'd ask questions. We use that format. By the way, I want us to have more input from our members asking questions and us talk less when we have our podcast format. He would have been good at a podcast. Bring him in, you and I ask a couple questions, and then go right into the guests, because I think guests wanted to ask him questions. I had some questions I was going to ask him today.
Yeah, and several people told me they had questions. They were a little disappointed outside of coming up later that they couldn't ask questions.
So I wanted to ask questions. I said, well, what motivated you to be there? I mean, maybe I caught it in his story. And what happened? How did they arrest you? What did you go through?
And what are your thoughts right now? And I was going to ask him about the post 9/11 GI Bill because he qualifies for that. The post 9/11 GI Bill. It's really a good bill. I have it right now. In fact, I'm losing about 5 months of benefits because of BS, but it was a great program. It's a wonderful thing they have. They do cut it off at 15 years after you use it, but they were late executing it. For me, I was one of the early people getting it. But I want to ask him about the post 9/11 GI Bill, what he's doing now, what he plans to do. A little bit about his childhood. Why did he go in the military? Why did he become a Ranger? What units was he in? What were his experiences in Afghanistan? Those are some of the questions I was going to ask him.
I think he would have responded. Maybe we can get him online and do a live stream with him on a podcast, because there are good questions. But bringing it back to pure Redmove, and I'm being a little selfish since Bill's president and I'm the executive director. Our next meeting is January the 8th on First Thursday here at this room. And we have now 4 candidates. The first one's for the state, Adriana Freilich, and she's a very, very good prosecutor and attorney, and she's running for Attorney General. And then we have Ed Larson, the current mayor of Sparks, that's rerunning. And then Tammy Holt Steele, that's running for District 5, Washoe County, and Teresa Gomez running for Washoe County number 3. They're all great candidates, and some of them are new, which is all right, and have very strong, I call, common sense approaches.
So that's good. So Ray, on the format, we're going to have to drop it down. Like they can have maybe 1 minute, 1.5 minutes to each tell them about themselves, their stump speech.
Right.
And then we need to go to 1 minute responses to our questions. I need to ask 2 or 3. You need to ask just 2 or 3. Then we need to get the audience in. So with 4 people, if they're talking back and forth and people can ask them specific questions, they could ask them each candidate one specific question, go back and forth. I'd like to do it more like that. I think that'll grow. It's a good, you really get a vibe of what people are thinking when you allow them to talk.
Well, Gary, our timer, realizes they have up to 2 minutes, but that was before.
With 4 people, we got to cut it to.
Yeah, we'll have to tell
cut it to
them,
a minute.
remind me to go to maybe 90 seconds or something. And then we'll ask questions, but open it up to the audience after we're done
Well,
asking.
I want to start, if we start at like when we start at 12. So by 12:30, 12:15. So by 12:45, we need to start asking questions because we go till 1:30. I'll give them 45 minutes from out here.
Yeah, well, it depends how, with 4, it's going to be interesting.
But we need the audience to ask more questions and get involved and try to even submit some of their questions ahead of time.
Plus live stream people that
We
are
always get a few questions from the live stream audience too.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've done a lot of stuff in 12 years. We've had some huge events, the governor's debate, good camera work. Steve, Chris Swanson actually running one of our cameras, some other folks. But it's interesting. It's interesting times right now.
Redmove is now in August of 2021. It'll be coming up on 5 years in 26.
We had a breakfast and
We've had a lot of meetings, but before Bill and I used to be president of Republican Men's Club, which doesn't exist anymore. And Bill did all the AV.
We did the AV. We did some really good work. We got up to $12,000 in cash too.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, if you don't have AV, if you don't reach out, you start losing it nowadays. You need that AV.
Critical to do social media. And I personally, and we're going to do more, I'm personally on Instagram and X, which was Twitter, as well as Facebook.
So anyway, with Republican Men's
And
Club,
YouTube.
back in the day when we were just sitting right at the governor's debate, we had 5,000 people, a lot of people watching it live.
But that was under
Redmove,
Redmove.
yeah. And YouTube cut it off because somebody talked about COVID. That's
I know.
incredible after 5,000.
We had almost 500 people live, plus the live stream, plus almost 5,000 viewing it.
And we had media up and down the state. We had every media
Yeah.
person going. It was a really good event. But what's ironic is we were censored big time because of what the candidates said running for governor.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful country we live in when the candidates can't get censored by the big media and YouTube and Chrome and all.
And
this.
that was even-
Folks, it's going to happen again. If Trump gets out of there, we're done.
Yeah.
If we don't get somebody who's Republican back in office, as the Democrats get back in, we're done.
Yeah.
Because they are the establishment. There's a lot of Republicans within this.
They're not Democrats anymore. I was a political science major and used to run and did essays on socialism. They're not just socialists. They're damn communist. And that's not being bitter. They're accepting all the communist rule. And unfortunately, because of lack of education on the part of the teachers union and the teachers and the way we are, there's 30% or more of the young people like to think of communism. And it sounds good, but it never works.
So in education, if you're going to a university, I went back to school in cinematography. A lot of good people there, but we were sort of neutral in politics. But if you go directly onto campuses, you're going to find that they're woke as heck. I won't even tell you some of the programs at my university. I went to West Point. We didn't have those things. My kids went to West Point. They're a little woke when my kids were going to West Point because of
And that
Biden.
became woke.
Yeah, because of Biden and all the leadership at the time. But back in the universities, even UNR, we have a lot of woke folks out there. And the people who are conservative have to be quiet because they'll get jammed.
To be honest, the president that was governor of our state, in my opinion, is very much a rhino Republican or in favor of Roke. And he just got promoted to being chairman of one of the casino giants.
Well, what happened is I got here in 2000. I got out of the military in 2012.
And that's when we moved
In
back.
2010, I made Nevada my home residence when I was in active duty. But what's ironic is when I got here, the Republicans had the Assembly, Senate, and the governor's office, and we voted down taxes. And then at the very end, after the people voted it down, the Republicans voted in a tax. And I can tell you, I can tell you how many people would say, "I'm not going to vote for."
Oh,
the
it killed the party
They killed
for
the
two
party. They
elections.
destroyed the party, and we're still trying to recover because it took a majority of Republicans to go with the Democrats to raise a tax under the governor. So people don't trust the Republicans anymore here, but the Democrats are 10 times worse.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know I have a candidate that's running for Senate 16 against one of our candidates. As a Republican, it'll be a debate for two of them. But she had converted from Democrat to Republican, and she has so much dirt on the local Washoe Democrats of what they've done and how corrupt they are and evil.
Well, can you say her name? I guess I'm going to wait to go to Redmove event.
Well, that's all right. She's running for 16 against Lisa Krasner in the primary, and it's Nevada Moon, Diane Sullivan. She calls herself a MAGA Trump.
So on the last cycle, we had a pretty good debate, and Lisa was in it. She didn't have her best presentation at that debate, but she won the election. She won re-election. It's really hard to beat an incumbent the way our system's set up.
When I get going, I think she can be beat.
We'll have to see. She probably won't come here, Ray, if you're acting like that. You got to be semi.
Well, no, she hasn't come to our meeting for a long time.
She's
I hate to say it, but she's very, in my opinion, very phony. And I'll say it online. She can get a hold of me and I'll defend that.
It's funny. Amadei doesn't come anymore either, does he?
No. He will come, but he's been tied up. Stacy is local campaign or local person. He's in favor. He's a lifetime member of Redmove.
Yeah, he's there, but
I
unfortunately,
know he's not your favorite.
I know during COVID he wouldn't meet with us, the families of the people who didn't take the shot with kids in the military.
He likes
won.
me. I'm not sure about you.
No, he won, but I'm still not. You know what? I'll listen to everybody. It's not sort of water under the bridge, but he's still our congressman. I still vote for him. I won't vote for him in the primary, but he's going to win anyway, and I'm going to vote for him in the general election. But it was very frustrating. Basically, we had families of soldiers and sailors and different folks who hadn't taken the COVID shot. We tried to meet with him 4 or 5 times. In fact, I brought you in too. Why do you think he wouldn't meet with us? Why wouldn't he vote to not force the COVID shot on the soldiers?
I'm sorry.
Remember, I brought you in to you went into you went into the congressman's office with me.
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
the local office. And I know his Northern Nevada manager or
Yeah, she said she was.
office man, she likes me.
Leave a message. So anyway, Ray, I think we'll start doing this now. After the Redmove event, we'll just try to see if we can do a podcast here, see what I can do with sound. And again, for all my Republican friends out there in the state of Nevada, during the general election, vote Republican. Because unless we find some amazing Democrat, which I haven't seen ever in the state, and there are very few, there may be one in the whole country. But in the primaries, get the mega candidates. Find the candidates, look at their voting record and see what they are. We have a safe Republican seat here. Whoever wins the primary will win the general election. And you can have some real leadership here if you win the primary as a Republican in the congressional seat.
Where?
Here. So in Nevada, we're about 50. Amadeus district.
Clarifying.
So we have 4 congressmen.
Right.
3 of them are Democrats, and this is a safe Republican seat.
Right.
So whoever wins the primary will win the general election.
Right.
So if you want a real conservative, mega conservative, you can get one in. But then if you don't win, just don't stay home, still vote for him when you come back.
Yeah.
That's the way it needs to be done. But it's amazing what they do. And they've already endorsed him at the state party, by the way. So the state party does endorse. I was there at the convention when they endorsed. And they tried, and they've endorsed here too, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Washoe. I'm not positive on Washoe, but I know the state did.
I'm sure that
I think they did. I was there. Yeah, they
the
voted.
Washoe Central
Yeah, they already
Committee,
did. They voted for everybody.
even though they have to vent people, will endorse.
They
Amadeus.
already did. I was there. I endorsed. The state party endorsed him in January of last year. Or no.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I was at the, it was here. It was actually in Carson, was it Carson City? I forgot where we had it, but they endorsed already.
Well, that doesn't surprise.
They endorsed everybody who's a incumbent.
We need to get, and I'm on the state central committee as well as Washoe.
Yeah, I was there.
And we need, I missed the last meeting in Carson. However, we need to get
The last meeting- they
stronger
had-
leadership in the state party.
So they had Carson.
And I know
then
people
They had
won't like-
Winnemucca.
Huh?
It was Carson. I was at Carson, and they had Winnemucca.
Yeah, when the legislature meets, it's in Carson. And then the fall one,
So we should have one coming up again soon, right? When's the next one? State party.
it'll be, next year.
So we had 2. So
There's only 2 a year.
So Winnemucca they should have one down in Las Vegas, I would think, don't they?
Yeah, they do, but the one that they do every year for the legislature when they're in session almost doesn't count. It's always in Carson.
Well, anyway,
Anyway, come to Redmove January the 8th.
and we're going to do a podcast afterwards. So stay around, clean the room, don't run off, have a quick meeting, and then do a podcast. Everyone else can go. I love this. No one's in the room. I should take a picture. This is what it looks like. Let's take a picture, Ray, real fast. We'll do a selfie. This is what it looks like. Ray and Bill podcasting. Get a little closer.
That's all
See the
right.
lights? Let me go wider. Let's see. I guess I can't go narrower or wider. So anyway, there we are. Empty room. I'm tired. I got to go home. I got class tonight at 5.
What do you do, all
I've
Zoom?
got a master. Oh yeah, it's a master's program. I got a 2-hour class.
I want you to talk to Nevada. I mean, she's different. Let me put it that.
We need to do it right here.
She's different and very blunt, but she is very Republican. Bruce has invited her to be a half a day thing expressing. He might endorse her.
He can endorse whoever he wants to. I'm for Bruce endorsing a lot of people, but I just don't want the central committee to endorse overall.
I agree. I do
That's the
too.
one thing I think individually, that works really well. If you get endorsement from the chairman of the party and they put endorsement from the chairman of the party of the Republicans, send them out to Republican households in a primary, it's a good chance you're going to get elected.
Yeah.
It's a little simple trick. And Bruce, you can make a difference doing that. Anyway, take care. Aloha. Say goodbye. Say goodbye, Ray.
Bye.